This brother, he's one of the hardest working poets that I know. I give you Eddie Caine.
Coming to you live from the Milky Way, planet Tiamat, also known as Mother Earth. Welcome humans, earthlings, and mankind alike to another episode of Fiyah Conversations. I'm your host, Eddie Caine. Alright, once again we're back with another episode of Fiyah Conversations. It's your boy, Eddie Caine. Today we have our guest, my brother from another mother, Brother Sharif. How you doing today?
I am doing well, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing great, man. Thanks for asking. I appreciate that. I'm just glad that it's finally starting to warm up. You know what I'm saying? I'm enjoying this weather.
Yeah, it's great down here, man.
I know it is. So our folks that we talking about today was actually we discussing black economics, and I was explaining everyone is because there's so much information that we cannot do this in a one show segment, so we're gonna have to do this into a 2-part episode, and I definitely wanted to have you on here, brother, because you are a business owner.
Well, I appreciate that. It's always an honor to be included in one of your shows, because we always talk about relevant topics. We get down to the real deal and boil away the BS, and that's just how I like to do it.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm talking about. And one thing for our listeners out here, I want you to give them a little background about yourself. Not only are you a publisher, but I want them to know about as far as some of the degrees or the background that you have in your business, and why the reason why I have you on this show as a guest, as a matter of fact.
All right. Well, I have a master's degree in e-commerce. I have a master's degree in management. Got bachelor's degrees in marketing and management. I have been in business in one form or another for the last 18, 19 years. I've owned 2 corporations, one subchapter S and one LLC. I have had the privilege to work with several independent enterprises in joint ventures over my career, as well as served some time as an independent contract business consultant for small businesses with the Small Business Development Corporation of Louisiana, the #1 SBDC in all of America, as recognized by our President Barack Obama.
All right. Y'all hear that, huh? Barry O gave him up. Big props.
That's right. So I have in my career gone through the spectrum, working with my own businesses, small businesses, mid-sized corporations, and large national corporations. And I have seen the dynamic of business played out in a variety of circumstances and situations. I've also been published and written books on business and customer service, as well as approximately 340 articles in magazines, e-zines, newspapers throughout the United States. So,
well, I guess I did get the right person on here for this particular segment that we're talking about. I appreciate that, because one reason I want you on there, Brother Sharif, because you have your background is so broad. As you not only with your degrees in, but you also have added knowledge in various industries, and I like that. And what I wanted to go ahead and get on to as far as what this is all about, everyone. We're talking about black people.
Mm-hmm.
Not melanated people in America. We talking about black people specifically in America. Now, last time I checked some time ago, America's population was around 250 plus million people. Okay. Now, we are 13.2% of the population, everyone. So you're looking at basically between 40 and 45 million blacks that's living in America. Okay. As of today, let's say 2017, based upon previous census records. Now, we've technically been in this country for 400 years, even though we know we have a rich history in the Americas and around the world. So I'm just going to go ahead and just take it on as far as dealing with the history books are concerned, even though we predate slavery in America. I'm just going to go from that standpoint so people can get an idea. So, all right, when slavery came about, it was approximately, 30 to 50,000 slaves at that time. All right, approximately. And so now we're at 43 plus million people in America. And in those 400 years, what have we accumulated? What do we possess? What land ownership do we have?
Not much.
Exactly.
Hey, now I'm gonna tell you, Ed, I'm not gonna let you get away with no rhetorical questions. I'm gonna answer everything you put out there.
No, it wasn't a rhetorical question, but it is. It's not much, and the thing is, why is that? I mean, we talking about being on here 400 years and we don't have anything, but yet you have people that come from other countries and they're here for a span of a couple of generations, and they're able to amount wealth. And
I'm gonna tell you the truth, Ed. If you want me to sum up the reason why we are in the circumstance, the business climate that we are in as black people, I can do that in one sentence. And that is basically, we are plugged into the wrong system.
what do you mean? What do you mean we plugged in the wrong system? There's only one system. What do you mean?
Exactly. That is exactly what I mean. There is only one system that's offered to us as black people to do business in America. And that system is designed a certain way for a certain population of people. When you bring up the circumstance that other races come in from out of this country, outside this country, and they don't even speak English, and within one generation, 2 generations, sometimes just a handful of years, they have established financial security and economic independence through business ventures. You have they come into this country and they plug into a system. It's the same system we plug into, but we are only allowed to plug in certain ways for the benefit of the system. The system, unfortunately, is not designed to benefit us. So when we find ourselves with the only option of plugging into a system that does not serve us, that only serves us enough to maintain us as a cog in that system, that's really not helpful. That's the wrong system for us.
I understand what you're saying, but all right, I'm about to come at you from the standpoint of, a lot of our listeners, or what do you mean? We have no idea what you're talking about because we are in America. The land of the free, the home of the brave, where this is
come on, Ed. Come on now.
Society. And so, you afforded the same rights that I'm afforded to. So, what you're saying actually makes no sense. You know what I'm saying? Because,
here's the sense of it.
I want you to hear me out, though. Okay.
I'm gonna get you out of the darkness, brother. Because here's where it makes sense. I am, as a black man, afforded the same rights and privileges that you are as another black man, but we are neither one of us afforded the same rights and privileges as a white man, or a Palestinian man, or Iranian man, or a Latino man in a lot of cases. Okay? The difference is when we plug into a system of doing business in America, we plug in a way that is different than if we were Anglos, or if we were Latinos, or if we were Palestinian. This system was designed by a specific group of people for a specific purpose. Palestinians don't have a place in this business system except to create a buffer between blacks and Anglos. Latinos fill a similar role, but they have an expanded role as they're supposed to be a servant class. Black people generate more retail spending dollars than any other racial group. Okay, as a percentage of retail spending for the entire country, we make and dump more dollars into the system than anybody else. We are the gasoline that powers the engine. Without,
all right, I understand. All right, you saying that we spend more and everything else.
And that's our role in this system. Our role is not to be lifted up and developed and we are not supposed to be creators of self-wealth. We are supposed to be the fuel that keeps the engine going, and fuel gets burnt out. Exactly. We are, you know what? If you want to use that analogy, we are not the seeds. We are not the harvest. We're not even the dirt. We the fertilizer.
We're the workers. We just the workers.
We're not the workers. We the fertilizer. Okay? we make everything grow. Without us, it doesn't work. The system does not
I understand that. I got you. All right. I got you on that one. Because, we talk with a lot of black people, hey, we black people know about slavery. We know about making things go around and everything, but what's the problem? Something is going on, because what you said, so basically, excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, all right, from what I'm gathering, is when you're talking about this particular system and all, what you're saying is that basically this system is designed and set up to hold us back, and the only way we are participants of this system is by I would say to help it grow or give of our energy, but we it's not designed where we can reap the benefits or take pleasures in the fruits of our labor.
That's exactly right. What you have is a system whose original iteration, whose original incarnation was slavery. Okay, that was the business model, slavery.
Right.
And then it evolved into more like a sharecropping system, right? Which is just a different brand. It's only a next stage evolution, but it hasn't changed the system substantially. It's just a 2.0 version, and then the 3.0 version is basically wage slavery, and that's pretty much where we are now. Now, if you want,
you mean like back at home in New Orleans, all we have is these dishwashing jobs and these cooks, and kind of like how you see out here in Texas, basically how the Mexican was doing what the black people once did, but they're doing that out here in Texas. That's what they're doing in New Orleans. I see what you're saying. What I wanted to go ahead and we'll talk. What you had said something earlier. You was talking about how we are the biggest consumers, and what I want to go ahead and let our listeners, I want to go ahead and run some statistics to you. So that way you don't know this is not made off of the top of my head. And I don't even think that I'm creative or even intelligent enough to even come up with a statistic. I mean, black people, like Brother Sharif was saying, we are the largest consumers. What he's trying to tell you all, okay, let's look at the retail spending in America. Now, we're going to picture this spending being a big old pie, a big old American apple pie. Okay, this is the retail spending. Okay, black people have 75% of that pie, and only a little quarter of that left is for the rest of America. So the retail spending was keeping America afloat, and we're spending 75% of that retail spending. We're spending it, we're consuming. We aren't gaining anything from that. And listeners, you would be astonished. Right now, our retail spending, as of last year, was $1.2 trillion. The year before that, it was $1.1 trillion. The year before that, it was $1.1 trillion. As of 2019, which is in 2 years, our total retail spending is estimated to be at $1.4 trillion. $1.4 trillion by the end of 2019. And to our listeners, I want you to know that if you listen to that, what that is saying, that just based upon retail spending, we're talking about bullshit. Excuse my language. We're talking about video games, hair care products, things like that. We're not even talking about homes and stocks and bonds and land. We're not even talking about that. We're talking about wasting money. Okay, we would be the 8th to 11th richest nation on the planet. Just between us 43 million black people, we would just us alone, we would be the 8th to 11th richest nation on the planet if we kept that $1.123 trillion amongst ourselves. Now, let me ask you a question, Malik, because I want this to go a little back and forth, give and take. All right, you deal with money. I've worked with you. I've seen you set up budgets. I've seen you do all of these things. I know what you can do with the $20,000 budget.
Oh yeah, I can make magic.
What could you even do with 1% of this 1.1 trillion? And ladies and gentlemen, 1% of $1.1 trillion is over $1 billion. You're looking at over $10 billion.
1% or 10%?
I just said at 1%.
1% is like $1,100,000,000, right? $1,200,000,000, something like that.
Something like that.
I'm gonna tell you what. If I had that kind of capital, I could change the entire world. I could remake this world into a utopia. You know, let's put those numbers in perspective, okay? Think about all of the countries that you hear of in the news. Think about all of the nations that you hear of in the news. And if you hear about them in the news, they must have some importance, some relevance, right?
Right.
So they're actors on the international scene. They're players in this game, right?
Right.
Okay, let's talk about Iraq. Right? You heard about Iraq, right?
Yeah.
Our listeners have heard about Iraq. They know that there's oil in Iraq. They have a government in Iraq. They have citizens in Iraq. They spend money. They import. They export. They're a player in the international scene, right?
Right.
They only have 20 million people in Iraq. That's half the population. That's less than half the population of black Americans. And they don't make nowhere near, in their gross domestic product is way less than $100 billion.
Right.
We actually would be competitive as a nation with like France. We would be competitive as a nation with Germany.
Maybe in the top 10.
Yes, we'd be competitive. We'd beat the hell out of Spain and Greece.
Oh yeah.
They couldn't shine our shoes. So that puts you in a frame of understanding where it's like, as a group of people, as a population,
Black
we would
Americans,
be,
or if you want to call us African Americans or American Africans.
well, I just call us blacks. We black people. You know,
Gotcha.
you know, when you look at blacks versus America, all right, $1.2 trillion right now today, compared with the entirety of the pie, which is 3-point-something trillion dollars, right?
Right.
So we're at 45% of all the dollars that go into anybody's pockets. We got the majority of them. We're putting more dollars into other people's pockets as a percentage of total dollars, right? So what happens if we were our own nation? Let's talk about a black nation. We would be competitive with the United States of America, dollar for dollar.
Y'all hear that, people?
Repeat yourself?
We would be competitive as an economic force with the United States of America. Because if you pull our dollars out of that pie, they are left with just a portion of the pie. They don't still have the whole pie. They got a portion. So our portion being competitive, it depends on who you ask. Some people say it's a little bit less. Some people say it's a little bit more. But regardless, it's competitive.
But for that small amount of people, we would be a force to be reckoned with.
Exactly. There's like you said earlier in the show, there's 250 to 300 million people in this country, and we are only 45 million of those people. So if you pull 45, yeah. So if you pull 13 point something percent of the population out, and with it comes somewhere between 45 and 65% of the money. Oh, brother, Come on now. Why aren't black people wealthy? Why aren't black people some of the wealthiest people in this country? Why aren't black people one of the two wealthiest populations in the country?
Yeah. I'm gonna tell you, TD Jake said it best. I'm just gonna use his name, even though I don't support TD Jakes or anything like that. Yes, I said it to you all. He said that we're consumers and not producers. And
Because that is
the problem. We have been.
That's how we plug into the system.
Right. Because and we're gonna definitely go on that on another topic, but I don't want to veer off into consumers and producers just yet. But I want to run a couple of more statistics to y'all. Even though while we still on this 1.1 trillion dollars, if you go ahead and divide that 1.1 trillion dollars amongst 42 million black people in America here today, that's every one of us will be getting $26,200 a year. That's full-time money. Every one of us, children, grandchildren, grandma, everybody. We would already be straight.
Here's what you got to know about that statistic, Ed. When you talk about $27,000 coming into your pocket a year, that is in excess of what you just spent. So let's say, for example, if I'm bringing in, as an average black male in America, I'm bringing in, let's say, $32,000. And out of that $32,000, every year, I get food, I get lights, I get water, I get clothes, I get gas, goodies, and groceries, right?
Right.
So I spend all $36,000 that I take in, and then 27,000 of those come back to me. That's what we're really talking about. In order to get what we're talking about, in order to really have a clear understanding of what's going on, is if we recycle those dollars back into our economy, our black economy. That means that exactly. That means that $36,000 worth of value only costs us $9,000 to get.
That is awesome. And while we're talking about money circulation and amongst people, I want y'all to check this out, and this is very embarrassing. All right, when we're looking at money as far as how it circulates amongst the populations, okay, I'm going to mention Asians, Jewish, whites. I'm not even going to mention Hispanics and us, okay? Asians are at number one, where that dollar circulates 30 times in their community before it leaves. Jewish people are second. It circulates 20 times. So that means basically that dollar touches 20 different people before it leaves.
In the Jewish community.
Right. As far as white people are concerned, 17 days, okay?
Yeah.
Black people, I want you to take a guess. How many days?
Less than one, probably.
6 hours.
Yep.
6 hours. And I'm gonna tell you, I was reading an article by Dan Dash. He was the co-founder of Rockefeller Records with Jay-Z or whatever. But he was talking about that he had a conversation with this Jew business owner and told him straight up. He said, "Man, when we look at black people, we look at that as payday. We look at that as lottery day. We call black people liquid money, liquid gold." And that's because it's not tangible to black people. Soon as we get that money, it gotta go right through the fingers. It got to leave our hands. We gotta buy something. We gotta do something with this money. So one thing what we need to even do while we're discussing is we need to figure out, because in order to treat any symptom or any ailment, we gotta get to the root of the problem. Why do black people have this problem as far as we can't hold on to money? We got to get rid of this money as soon as we see it. I got to shine because I just got me a fresh new pair of J's, but my children ain't got shit to wear. What's up with that? What's up with that?
I'm going to tell you, I think that there's multiple levels to this problem ID situation. When we're looking at how to identify what the problem is regarding how we handle money as black people, there's a couple different levels. And I think one of those levels, and I'm not going to say that this is in order or any kind of priority. I'm just saying that there's multiple facets. But one of those different aspects is the fact that, like you said, we consume for a specific purpose, and everybody does. Every group does, but our group, our racial group, does not consume for purposes of investment or self-development or wealth building. We consume for immediate gratification, and that gratification a lot of times comes in the form of ego boost. We gotta shine. We gotta look spectacular. We gotta look like we are wealthy, even though we might not have two nickels to rub together. That is a problem. That is a real problem, because other races, if you look at benchmarking against successful racial groups like Anglos, like Jewish folks, like Asians, you will see an Asian ride a cash car and not put money into a car note, and not put money into rims, and not put money into excessive displays of wealth, so that they can make sure that the next car they purchase, while it may be a brand new car, or it may be something nice, or it may be something top of the line, is also purchased with cash.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? The Asian perspective of doing business is not to be indebted to anyone unless they're family. Okay?
Okay.
I like that.
Not to.
You need to repeat that for our people. That's the Asian perspective, to do what?
This is their strategy. Their strategy as a cultural group. Now, this is a blanket statement, so of course there's exceptions. But as a blanket statement, what I have observed from the outside looking in is Asians as a cultural and racial group have a business perspective that states that you don't owe anybody unless they're family. They have a very exclusionary culture, and you can see this in China, in Korea, in Vietnam, and you can see it in America. You can see it in Chinatown, in Little Vietnam, and you can see it in Michoud.
Michoud up there in New Orleans. That's right. And one thing, what I want to go ahead while you're talking about this, I want to one thing with our black people. Okay, me personally, I'm not gonna knock nobody for getting their money, getting their hustle on, and everything else. I'm not gonna knock nobody for that. But one thing, our black folks, we need to realize, the people that are profiting off of us in our neighborhoods and our communities, they're profiting off of us but not giving anything in return. Why would you support a place like that? This is the reason why if you would see Asian people, yeah, they're nice and everything else, and because that's customer service. I'm going to be nice. I'm going to be a certain way when you come into my place, you come into my shop. I'm going to take your money. But I want y'all to think about it. What Asian, which Arab, what Jew, what Mexican, any of these stores that's in black neighborhoods that have actually gone out after they've collected money
And help anybody else.
You don't have to. You don't have to. You don't have to. And this is the problem. When we operate a business, when a black person opens up a shoe store, right? And they open up a shoe store, first of all, they're not trying to open it up in a black community because they have a perception that black people don't have no money. And of course, that's a perception that's supported because we always spend our money outside the black community. So we open up a shoe store, and we open it up in a white mall, or we open it up in another community or whatever, and we offer. See, this is the thing. We might achieve some success. We might achieve some financial or commercial success, but we do so in such a marginal way. It's not a whole hell of a lot of dollars. What we end up basically making full-time money. We're not getting rich. We're just making full-time money. So what happens is we offer, in order to do this, that's the success that we can look forward to in those situations. But in order to do this, we have to give 150% customer service compared to Anglo contemporaries or Asian contemporaries. Now, the Asians and the Anglos, well, more so Asians and Palestinians, Pakistanis, and Middle Easterners, and in history, Jewish and white, but they open up businesses in the neighborhood, or they will own businesses in the neighborhood. Now, because they're in the neighborhood, and a large portion of our population is not as mobile as we need to be in order to shop around and get the best deals, a lot of times we don't have a choice but to patronize these places because they're within walking distance. and they give us the worst quality, they give us the worst service, they give us the worst customer experience, and they charge the highest prices because we don't have no choice.
Let me tell you something. This was a couple of years ago. I was back at home in New Orleans and went to the corner store. Owned by, I don't know what particular sect or group, but I know there was Muslim. Okay. Muslims not supposed to be eating pork, touching pork, none of this stuff. So I go up in the store and I'm just looking around in the back in the deli by the food, nothing but pork and old chicken, right? So I go up front, I'm talking to him, I say, man, what you doing selling pork? He said, what? I said, why are you selling pork here? What are you talking about? What does your Quran teach you about touching pork, eating pork, anything having to do with that? That's an abomination. And he started laughing. And I'm like, and furthermore, you doing this with the alcohol and everything else. How would your people at home feel if you was doing this at home? Or I wouldn't be doing it at home.
Hell no.
And that's what I want y'all to understand. They know that, but they don't care. They will put this on us just so they can get the money. But I want to go on to something else though.
That's the role they play in the system. They plug into the system in that place.
Right. Now, one thing I want us to also talk back on, go back to is as far as I want to break down our spending habits as far as black people, and I'm going to break this down to our listeners in the forms of billions of dollars. Okay. Billions. Now we talking about annually. You know what I'm saying? This is every year, okay? In the tobacco industry alone, black people, guess how much we spend? We gonna play this game, Malik, called Guess How Much.
Man, you gonna hurt my heart. Because if you're talking about the tobacco industry and we talking about billions of dollars, I would probably say somewhere between $4 and $8 billion a year.
Oh, wow. All right, I don't feel bad and okay. It's only 3.3 billion that we spending on cigarettes.
Well, look, I said 4, so that was,
But also, when I'm talking about this 3.3 billion, y'all, I'm talking about cigarettes, that dip and stuff. Even when you're buying your blunts or your cigarillos and everything.
Yeah, any tobacco product.
$3.3 billion. Okay. One thing that we have another problem with, another vice like Native Americans, with alcoholism. Guess how much we spend each year on alcohol?
Oh, that's got to be at least $4 billion, maybe 6.
I'm glad you really thinking poorly of us, Malik, because you're making us look better when I give you.
Look, I went to LSU. I know brothers could drink. Okay.
Right. All right. This one is alcohol, $3 billion. Okay.
$3 billion.
Yes, sir. Now I'm going to talk about non-alcoholic beverages. We talking about sodas and Snapples and teas and stuff like that. Guess how much?
Okay.
I'm gonna say another $3 billion.
2.8. You close. Now, all right. I'm going to say this before I read this next one. All right. I just want you all to know that as far as statistic-wise, black people are the largest consumers of technology, but we are no technology company. We own the most iPhones, iPads, Androids, computers, and everything else, but we're not doing nothing with it. We're just using it for entertainment purposes only. And guess how much we spend on telephones, etc., and tablets and stuff?
$2 billion.
$18.6 billion.
Oh, wow, blew me away. All right. I'm glad we don't have no money on this.
And I could not even tell you one black software company. And it's sad. As a matter of fact, I'm going to have to go look that up.
$18 billion.
18 billion. All right. Now, let me see. Here's another one. Healthcare. Healthcare. We spend $23.6 billion in healthcare.
Now, before you go further, I'm going to tell you the truth. Healthcare, we spend
23.6
billion dollars, but that's not our total cost of healthcare.
No, it's not our total cost.
Oh no, our total cost is way, way higher because we don't take care of it, and that goes back to all those billions we spend on tobacco and alcohol and sugary drinks. Okay.
Right. Exactly. All right. Now when I'm talking about healthcare, that's dealing with health and beauty care products and stuff like that.
You know, that's I see a theme here. You know, I see a theme that there's a central theme running through these numbers here. I can tell.
Right. Okay. Now, as far as charitable donations, okay, we talking about church, Salvation Army, etc. Guess how much?
$6 billion.
17.3.
Good night, Irene. All right.
And just even on toys and pets. Just buying toys for your kids, and they love us for Christmas time.
At least $10 billion.
$3.5 billion. That's on toys and pets. But if you factor in gifts, there's a chart there for gifts. Gifts is $10 billion annually.
Wow.
Yes, sir. $10 billion. And I'm about to say this because we was talking about charitable donations and things of that nature. I gotta find this because I don't want to mess it up. I did put a post about this on Facebook. But as far as blacks in churches are concerned, here it is. Okay, this is from a 2013 study. Okay, now this is 4 years ago. Okay. Black churches have collected over $420 billion in tithes and offerings nationwide since 1980. Guess how much that is a week if you break that down?
I don't know. That's got to be like $200 million a week.
$252+ million a week.
And what have we done with that? What have we accomplished with that? You know, and I want to put this out there right now for you, Ed. We need to do a show. We need to have a fire conversation about the religious industry and how it should I don't know what you want to call it, but how it should service the black community and how it is disserviced the black community. We could call it the myth of tithing or something. I don't know, but I that's definitely a topic that we can go into because the commercial sale of hope by churches is something that has affected black people, the black community, and black businesses and black wealth building incredibly. And when you talk about $220 million a week, come on, man, we could do something with that.
A week, and we have nothing to show for it. And see, this is the thing as far as some of our listeners, you know, this is why you all see me go off on these churches and everything else like that. These people are pimps. You know, I remember at one point, you were there at Greater St. Steve's in New Orleans, Paul Martin, it was a rumor. I don't know if it's true or not, but how you gonna ask people to submit their W-2s or their W-4s as far as how much you make? What, you know what I'm saying? You're not building anything for these people. You're not building schools. You're not doing anything but taking in on more and more money. And the poor are looking at you like some kind of benevolent being. And this is victimization from the black codes going that Willie Lynchism when it was decreed that you had to teach your slaves Christianity.
But see, it's a bastardization of what is actually in the Bible. Now I'm going to tell you, we can get into the Bible all day because you know I got a background just like you.
Oh, I'm about to get into it because we're on that topic of tithes and offerings, so I'm about to get into it.
But when you look into the Bible, it says that the 10% that's collected from the community is supposed to be collected by the priests and the Pharisees and redistributed to the community so that there is no poverty, so that there is no homelessness.
It wasn't money though, it was food.
It was food, exactly. But that was basically you gave a 10th portion of your harvest so that it could be redistributed to eliminate poverty, eliminate hunger, eliminate homelessness and things like that, so people could be sustained. The priests were only supposed to be taking 1/10 of the 10th for their own sustenance. You're not supposed to have priests getting $6 million jets. You're not supposed to have priests or pastors or church leaders in multi-million-dollar homes. That's not how that got down. In the biblical history. Now, I'm not going to say, I preface that by saying it's biblical, okay? Because that's a whole nother topic of discussion. But according to the biblical text, a lot of these priests and Pharisees or whatever had other jobs. You know, they wasn't, you know, they had to sustain themselves and they had to tithe as well. That 10% of 10% came back as compensation for their service to the community. They wasn't flying around in private jets. They wasn't living in mansions and having great estates and stuff like that.
As far as with black people with these mega churches and all, that is very recent. And really the reason why that was put in, what I think that was set up to shut us up. Because remember the Tammy Faye Baker stuff and all of them people that used to be balling out of control, getting that mega money? You know, and now they have this to shut people up. And that's one thing we don't realize. The powers that be or the system, they will only give a select few a certain amount of coins just so we can all look up to them and feel better, because, you know, they know we all feel like we connected. We know we connected. So when one person make it, you know, we feel like we all made it. But no. But you got to think about the stipulations for the ones who made it. Who are they pulling up? Who is Steve Harvey pulling up?
Nobody.
He meeting in secret with Donald Trump like not even in secret. He meeting with Donald Trump like he a politician. What him and Donald Trump got to discuss? Nothing.
Man, what happens is you have a system that's designed a certain way, and you have to understand that design. The system only works if you take one or two or three out of that collective group and hold them up as hope for the rest. You gotta have some sellouts. You gotta have some coons. You gotta have some clowns, some jigaboos, some Uncle Tom.
Right.
You gotta have some individuals that you pull out that support your cause and support the system, that you can hold up and say, see, you can make it too if you just keep working.
Right. And I'm gonna let y'all know the myth, the great American myth. Work hard and you'll be able to attain all the riches of your desire. That's a lie. That's straight bullshit. I'm gonna tell you that. It's about who you know. And to prove that is a lie, slaves worked for how long? How long did my ancestors work? And what do we have? Nothing. Right. We had towns and everything else. My family even had a town and it's gone. It's gone. We're gonna be discussing all of these various things on the next few episodes, because I'm seeing this our black economics is gonna be a series, it looks like, because we already at 42 minutes into the show.
Look, it's valuable, bro, because we need to understand this. Understanding is the key to deriving actionable solutions, okay? And that's another issue we have as black people, not just specific to commerce and business, but in our larger cultural paradigm, we have an issue with being problem oriented, and we're not doing anything. We're not producing any results if all we do is focus on the problem. All we're doing is bitching and moaning and whining and crying, and we're not coming up with any solutions. We need to be solution oriented. We need to come up with a strategy of, hey, you know what? Let's identify the problem, let's understand the problem, and then move on to the solution.
And kind of like you're saying, they're doing the wrong system. Figure out a way to create a system within the system. Or just leave that system together, alone altogether, one or the other. You know, and these are things that people, when we discussing, we should not be discussing this stuff, okay? Marcus Garvey talked about this over 100 years ago. Over 100 years ago, we should not be having this conversation, this discussion, but black folks, we tripping, we slipping. We wanted, you know, one thing when we came about, when we really messed up, with that civil rights movement, everybody wanted civil rights, but y'all wanted assimilation. Y'all didn't want integration, and that's what happened. That's how we lost all our businesses.
Like Martin Luther King said, after the Equal Rights Act was signed, I think I've integrated my people into a burning house.
Exactly. That was the beginning of the official end for us. And what I want to go ahead and since we talking about these churches. And a lot of these pimps out here who living good and everything else off of grandmama who faithfully tied, you know, her Social Security check every time, you know, and this is who these people praying off of. Now, I want to give some statistics as far as first I want us to think, all right, we looking at $252 million a week plus coming in tithe money and offering money. Where are these banks that they putting this money in? They putting them in
white
Chase,
banks.
Bank of America, What's in Your Wallet, Capital One, all the rest of them. Okay. Now this is what I want y'all to trip out off of this.
That makes no sense whatsoever. Every black church should have its own credit union. And every member of that church should be a member of the credit union. And that credit union should make loans at low interest rates to the members of their congregation. And that would build wealth. And every time you put your $20 in to the collection plate, a portion of that money should go right into the damn credit union.
Even for the small churches, y'all can still do this. You know, for the ones that's not pimping their people, and you're only getting in like $1,000 a week, that's good. That's $50,000 a year. That's out of that $25,000 of that money could be put aside to help somebody get air conditioning during the summertime. Help a few people out. Help get these clothes and things like that.
Well, here's the thing, Ed. When you have a small church and you have 200 people in the congregation, right? 200 people in the membership of the church credit union, and those 200 people put in $20 a week each. You know, that's $4,000 a week, right?
Yep.
And so $200,000 a year. Now you can lend a year because the system, the Anglo system of banking, says you need a 10% reserve. So if you have $200,000 a year, then you can lend $2 million a year. Help your congregation get some home loans. Help your congregation get some small business loans. Create some wealth in your community. Create your own system. And now they have some place to go instead of going to Chase, where if you get service, if you get a loan, it's going to be 2 to 4% higher than the Anglo counterpart is going to pay, because the cost of being black is higher.
Look, check this out. Okay, guess how many black-owned banks they have in America? And then when I'm saying black-owned banks, period, people, I'm not talking about that is 100% owned by black people, because it's just predominantly, majority owned by black people. Because a lot of these banks, it might be 51% black-owned, but you have 49% owned by Caucasians or Jews.
Yeah,
or whatever.
that's like Liberty Bank down here in New Orleans. It's about 52% black-owned.
Right.
Well, I'm gonna guess probably about 60 to 80 black-owned banks.
21.
Oh hell.
21 black-owned banks in America. This is online banking as well as physical banks. Okay, you have 21.
Here's the question I want to ask you, Ed. Out of 21 black-owned banks, and like I mentioned, we have a majority black-owned bank called Liberty Bank down in New Orleans, and you know, by all accounts, it's a reputable institution. I don't want to be disparaging about Liberty Bank specifically, but out of these 21 banks throughout the United States that are at least majority black-owned, how many of them operate as if they were a white-owned bank? Because it doesn't make any difference if I go into Liberty Bank, for example, okay? If I go into Liberty Bank and I get the same kind of service or treatment, or the same kind of rates, the same cost of money as if I would have went into Chase Bank. How does that help me?
Right. It's not.
It doesn't. So we could, even if there were 400 black-owned banks, if they still subscribe to that system of doing business the way the white-owned banks do, how does that help me as a black man?
Right. But let's even take it to another level. Even these black-owned banks still have to report to the Federal Reserve,
which is a private institution
Owned by white folks.
owned by white people. Mm-hmm.
But like I was saying, it's 21 black-owned banks in America. Out of these 21 black-owned banks, amongst these 21 banks, guess what's the total amount that they have in assets?
$400 million.
You wrong for that. From 21 banks, man.
I know that's low. I know I'm low balling, but I feel some kind of way right now. So I think, well, okay, to be a little bit more objective, I think 21 banks should have somewhere around 1.4 billion in total.
All right, well, they're sitting at $4.7 billion in assets, okay?
0.7 billion.
But guess what?
Okay, now,
That is 0.43% of the $1.1 trillion. That's not even 1%.
But you got to remember, they only need to lend on a 10% reserve, okay?
I understand that, but I'm just saying for 21 banks to only have a minimal asset of $4,700,000,000, that ain't nothing. That 4.7 billion is only it's not even a 1%. I understand that means that can allow them to loan out $470 billion worth of things.
They should be, if they were operating the way white banks operate for white people, then that means that we should have $400 billion plus worth of wealth building capital at our black disposal.
I don't see it.
No, hell no, because they're not. They're operating, the majority of them, I'm sure. Now I don't know specifically which ones, but the majority of them are operating as if they were white owned because they're plugged into the Anglo system. So they're not really doing any service to us. And that's why I say when we talked about the small churches having a credit union, that is a much better strategy for us as black people to create real actionable solutions and wealth building capital for us than going to a large black owned bank. Now, don't get it twisted. To all the listeners out there, I advocate, if you're going to bank with a large institution, bank with a black institution. Okay? Because it's more likely that black people will be hired by those black banks. It's more likely that black people will get financing from those black banks. It's more likely that they may get better rates from those black banks. That doesn't always mean it's a guarantee, but it's more likely. So don't get it twisted. I'm not saying you should pull your money out the black banks and do something different. What I'm saying is that as an additional strategy, those churches who have a couple hundred people in their congregation or membership to a couple thousand, they should be forming their own credit unions. And this is something that we did in the past, okay? And what happened was...
Maybe they're not allowed to.
Well, yeah, they are allowed to. They are allowed to. What happened is, and I know we were young back then, but in the 1980s, there was this big saving and loan scandal.
I remember that at SNL.
Exactly. That was orchestrated purposely to bring down wealth building institutions in minority communities, because that was what we were doing. We were creating community credit unions, we were creating savings and loans and whatnot, and we were actually doing something with it. That savings and loan scandal, quote unquote, was an orchestrated effort to bring down black wealth building institutions.
That's all right though, because guess what? We're gonna bring it back up.
The whole point is, if we understand what they did, then we can avoid that. We can defend against that. If you get
our own clone outside of the system ain't me. I wish I can tell you people out there, your listeners, I wish I can tell y'all the things that we have in the works to help us out, but I'm not gonna snitch on ourselves. But look, we almost running out of time. A couple of things I wanted to bring up. Excuse me, because like I said, I see this is one going to be a complete series. Outside of the U.S. government, black businesses are responsible for hiring the most African Americans in America. That's outside of the U.S. government, people. Now, I mean, it's a great thing that, we do employ our people, but that's outside of the government. And I want y'all to know, so when you hear people like Republicans and everybody else talking about we need to shrink the government, oh, the government's too big. They're not talking about the government's power. No, they're talking about the employee population. And we make up a larger part of that population. So when the new president that's in office right now, Donald Trump, I almost called him something else. But when Donald Trump got in office, one of the first things he did was suspended government hiring.
So who did that affect most?
Black people.
Of course.
And one thing was me and Malik, brother Malik, brother Sharif, we're always talking about I look at this, I'm gonna tell y'all in all honesty, most of y'all upset that Trump is in office. I love it. I love it. Because Trump is the double-edged sword, and that's so gangster about it. Because he's doing more to the Caucasian monetary system and messing over these people than we could have ever dreamt of. And in the same breath, that black people are like, oh, he's messing over us. No, he ain't. We struggling just since the first president been in office. But what the thing is, what Trump is doing is he's putting us in a great position, whereas we are forced to either get it together or get gone. We gotta get together and make it happen. So people, we gotta look at this as an opportunity, because you never know how the Most High, how he positions things. So instead of looking at this and Trump becoming and upset and shaking up everything, he's shaking it up for them. So have no fear. Get together with your people. Start working on businesses. Start looking at Dr. Boyce Watkins. If you get a chance, go ahead and Google Dr. Claude Anderson. See what these people are talking about. Look at those principles of Marcus Garvey, because this is where it's going, people, ladies and gentlemen. This is why they want to make America great again. Basically, you want to make it back to a slave population. And what I mean by that is nobody have rights except for white men. That's it.
Rich white men.
Rich white men.
Yeah, rich white men. So all my poor trailer trash homeboys is white. Yeah, well, you could be in the same boat.
Basically, I'm gonna tell you, if you make less than $250,000 a year, you're poor. If you make less than $250,000 a year, no matter what color your skin is, no matter what your socioeconomic background is, they hate you. And when I say they, I'm talking about rich white men. Okay? If you're a female, they hate you. If you make less than $250,000 a year, they hate you. If your skin has any kind of skin tone to it, they hate you. Economically, socially, psychologically, culturally, they hate you. It's economic genocide on black people. That's what's happening. First they castrated us off economically. Now it's an economic genocide. Well, now here's a consideration. They want to destroy us. And I'm talking about on multiple levels: psychologically, socially, economically, commercially, and even physically. They want to, but the system does not run without us as fuel.
Right.
So they are in a position of internal conflict. Okay? They want a certain thing, but they can't afford to have that certain thing. Because if they destroy us, if they take us out of the system collapses.
And they understand that. The only thing is that we as black people don't understand that. We as black people, we like to talk about us versus them, black against white. It's none of that. It's none of that. And see, this is one of the things that's my listeners, get your head out your ass. It ain't no black against white. It ain't none of that. No. It's black for black. That's what that means. That means we got to do for ourselves. Because I remember you said it best one day. This was a couple of years ago when we was having a conversation when you was talking about that Will and Lynchism. You said all black people need to do is just focus on black people, and automatically white people are going to start to lose because of their psychology or how it's set up. I want you to explain that to me before we head on out, because time is running short. Explain that to me.
Well, I'm going to tell you, to put it briefly, I'm going to use this one example. If you have a situation where, like, we use the metaphor of this machine and black people are the fuel, okay? This machine does not do anything for black people. This system doesn't do anything for the fuel. The fuel does everything for the machine. So if you take away that fuel, that machine is nothing but dead weight. It doesn't serve, it breaks down. It doesn't service the originator of the system. It doesn't service any of the other parts of the system, nothing. But if that fuel, just think of it as the black people are turning this crank, and it's making this big engine run, right? It's making the gears move. It's making it's churning out productivity. It's churning out product, and all of that. If we stop turning that crank, everything stops. And if we walk away from that machine and build our own machine and start turning that crank, and all the product comes to us, all the productivity comes to us, all of the resources go to us, and we are turning that crank, and then we get that $1.2 trillion to come to us. We can look across over to where we were, to where that machine is that's sitting there rusting in the field, gathering dust and not servicing anybody, because the plain and honest direct truth is Anglos don't know how to move the machine.
Right, that's true. That is true. And man, I'm glad you left it on that note. That's real, y'all. Stop cranking that damn machine. You know,
if it's not doing you any good, it's not doing you any good. It's not building you up. All it's doing is tearing you down. It's burning you out. And turning our own machine would not only provide more for us, but it would be easier. It would be less work to turn our own machine. To turn that crank for us would be twice. It would be twice the product, twice the results, twice the benefit, and half the work at the same time. They just don't want us to see that.
That's right. Now, y'all, I want y'all to marinate on that. You know what I'm saying? Because this is real talk. This is only the beginning when we just talking about as far as the black economics on here. Brother Sharif, I want to thank you for coming out on here and participating with us with this discussion, man. I really appreciate that.
Brother, it's always a joy for me. It's a blessing for me because I trust me, I got plenty more. Okay.
Oh, we definitely gonna be picking your brain too. We definitely gonna be picking your brain. And to our listeners, I want to thank y'all for tuning in once again. This is your boy Eddie Caine for Fiyah Conversations. If you want to hit me up, you can go to Instagram and you can find me at I am Eddie Caine. You can check me on my website. That's www.iameddiecaine.com. You can check us out on Facebook at Eddie Caine Radio. The same thing on Twitter. That's Eddie Caine Radio. And last but not least, I got to leave this with you all. When things get hard, when it get hectic, when things seem to be moving so fast and you don't know what to do, just step back, count to 5, and breathe. I promise you everything will be all right. Once again, thank you for tuning in to Fiyah Conversations. This is Eddie Caine. We'll see you next week. Have a good one. Peace.